First, I would like to thank the committee for holding this important hearing on occupational license reform in Rhode Island. As I said before, I'm Josh Stroman, and I am the Behind the Walls community organizer for DARE, Direct Action for Rights and Equality, where our mission is to organize low-income families and communities of color for social, political, and economic justice. And I would like to acknowledge that there are members of the Behind the Walls committee here, and I just wanted to thank them for showing up. Absolutely. H5 863, the Fair Chance Licensing Act, is sponsored in the House, as you well know, by Representative Scott Slater. This work continues the work of everyone present here today to give all Rhode Islanders a fair chance to contribute to their families, our communities, and to the state's economic growth and prosperity. So why are we really here today? Well, at DARE, not only do we believe that breaking down barriers to employment is just, it also, as everyone in this room knows, will contribute to safe streets and economically secure families. How do we know this? Between 2012 and 2022, the local economy here in Rhode Island will generate 51,420 new jobs. Notable industry growth is predicted in healthcare and social services, construction, manufacturing, and professional, scientific, and technical services, which comprise 51% of new jobs. 64 of 150 occupational licensing restrictions in Rhode Island general law refer to occupations in these industries. Now, passage of the Fair Chance Licensing Act will make it easier for people with records to work, strengthening the economy by expanding the workforce, improving public safety, helping employers find quality workers, and advancing racial and social justice. In just the past year, as Steve mentioned, 14 states as diverse as Kansas to Delaware to Tennessee to California have adopted legislation that creates pathways to occupational licensing for people with records. All right, so we want Rhode Island to be a leader on this issue. For Rhode Island, this is also an economic issue at its core. Over 42.6% of the state's fastest growing industries require licenses. In an era of low unemployment, misguided restrictions on people with records undermines economic growth and leaves talent untapped. The expansion of occupational licensing for people with records is common sense and advances the reentry initiatives put forth by the state. An expanding opportunity for meaningful employment, occupational licensing reform will build stable and safe communities for all people. Very briefly, this bill states that licensing boards cannot deny, suspend, or revoke a license solely because of conviction unless that conviction is directly related to the occupation. It provides licensing agencies with guidance about what should be considered as directly related. It builds transparency into the licensing process by requiring written notification and explanation of denial, suspension, revocation that includes information about the right to appeal and the process to do so. And lastly, it requires licensing agencies to collect and report basic data regarding conviction-related denials, as well as other applicant demographics. To close, thank you. Fair chance licensing reforms are critical to realizing these community benefits, and policymakers of all political stripes have spoken out in favor of legislation that creates pathways to opportunity for people with records, as you've heard. Today, members of the committee will hear a range of testimony and will be able to ask questions to satisfy any concerns with H 5863. But at DARE, we are confident that after the committee has heard testimony from directly impacted folks and their allies, a majority of members from the Judiciary Committee will support passage of the Fair Chance Licensing Act. I thank the committee for receiving my remarks and the remarks of those who have come today, and urge the committee to allow the full House to vote on this bill for the opening up of economic opportunity for all. Thank you, and I look forward to taking any questions you may have.
Thank you.